Well, researchers say doing better than your parents is part of the American dream. But according to new research, that dream is unfortunately fading fast.
That's why so many kids are living at home. Economists finding that just half of the 30-somethings earn more than their parents did at a similar age. An enormous decline from the 1970s when 92% earned more than their parents did.
Yeah, so why are today's young Americans stalling out? Here to weigh in, TV host Mike Rowe. Mike, good to see you this morning.
Hey, Mike, welcome back.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We see the poll numbers here. What is going on?
Well, you were just talking about fake news, and I would never suggest this is a fake poll, but I would suggest that I have no idea what to make of it. I don't know where the relevance is, and I'm not sure what the authors of it would really have us conclude. I think, as I understood the data, and I'm certainly not a statistician, but we're going back to the Depression, and we're looking at the rate with which kids have out-earned their parents over the last 70 and 80 and 90 years, and obviously there's a drop-off. When we started keeping track of this kind of thing, the country was depressed, and then it was recessed, and then we had the post-war boom, and then, you know, it's just mathematically, I don't understand how it's reasonable to assume that every generation is going to out-earn the last one. But my bigger problem with it, you know, I run a foundation, it's modest, but it's hyper-focused on the individual. So we don't look at, you know, dozens of millions of people and how much they're earning this month versus that month. We try and focus on work ethic. We focus on jobs that actually exist. We focus on training. And from what I've seen, the dream is not dead. The dream is alive and well. But again, look, the premise is it's a dream. We're not, I mean, the degree to which we hope for a thing to happen. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you conclude?
We do a lot of stories on this show about higher education, our universities and colleges, and the safe spaces and trigger warnings and bubble worlds. Are we preparing kids to go out and achieve the American dream like their parents did?
Well, you know, I think the obvious answer is no, but the clever answer is yes, if you really look at a dream for what it actually is, a fantasy, a hope. You know, a dream job is this thing that we've told millions and millions of kids is not only out there for them, but is the proximate cause of their happiness. So if you don't get your dream job, you're always going to feel vaguely dissettled and unhappy. It's kind of like not finding your soul mate. Right? I mean, it's a snipe hunt. It's hard to go out in the world with that level of expectation. So, you know, again, it's so much more interesting to me to look at an individual and say, are you willing to do the hard thing? That's what Dirty Jobs was. That's what Somebody's Got to Do It was. And that is still for sale.
Are they willing to do that? Is this younger generation willing to get their hands dirty, to, you know, mow those 60 lawns a day for the landscaping job, to go out there and do the dirty jobs in order to move this economy?
Honestly, with great respect, that's a trick question for me, because if I say yes, I just pass judgment on 40 million people. If I say no, I'm a pessimist, and I'm not a pessimist. I honestly believe that the opportunities are better than they ever have been for the precise reason that the reverse commute is more lucrative than it's ever been, because more people are looking around and concluding, erroneously in my humble opinion, that opportunity is dead. If you really want to distill this down into its most simple two component parts, in my view, the country right now is divided, but not in the ways we typically discuss. It's divided over here by people who are absolutely convinced the hope is dead, opportunity is dead, and the dream is dead. And over here, people have a different view. We're being divided through optimism and pessimism. And if we don't look a little harder at the numbers that come over the transom, my fear is we're going to conclude something completely upside down.
Right. We also live in this world where, you know, you can follow people's Instagram accounts and it seems like everyone else's life is perfect, right? Or you can launch a YouTube channel and they become famous within 24 hours. Everyone's wanting to be famous today, and you lose sight of service and humility and hard work. And that's a concern that I have for this next generation coming up, and instilling that in people. And that is still the American dream, and it should be.
Well, think about reality as it applies both to the American dream and to that particular vertical of TV with which we've become obsessed. My favorite moment in reality television, aside from the ones I participated in, are those early episodes of American Idol, where you see a 20 or a 22-year-old or an 18-year-old auditioning and learning, somewhat tragically, but for the first time in their life, that they can't sing.
Right, that they're not good.
For the first time in their life. Nobody ever told them, no, look, hey, maybe your dreams and your particular set of skills would be better served over here. And so that's the disconnect. You know, we have 5.8 million jobs available right now. Nobody's standing in line to audition for them.
Right, that's a great point. And we need them.
Do you think a study like this, a reflection that kids aren't making what their parents did at that age, is part of what Trump is tapping into, this sense that we're falling behind, that we had greater days, that they can be great again going forward?
I think politicians have to say things that confirm the kinds of studies you're talking about and acknowledge the sort of big, fat global trends that do, in fact, exist. But I believe that fundamentally, opportunity lives in the cracks. And in many, many ways, the more dire it looks for the masses, the more interesting it becomes for the entrepreneur, for the aspiring small business person, but most importantly, for the individual who's willing to learn a skill that's actually in demand. We've trained 500 welders. They're killing it right now. They're killing it. Steam fitters, pipe fitters, I can go down the list.
And those in a down economy, that's what we talk about here on the show, those in a down economy are, you know, keep that same paycheck. They're in demand. You're always going to need carpenters. You're always going to need those welders, those skill sets. But what do you think about automation? This idea that we're going to bring these jobs back to the United States, I think is pretty much a fallacy because those jobs are gone to begin with. Now we have robots doing a lot of those jobs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, it's glib to say somebody's going to have to make the robots. It's true. I'll defer to Huxley. Huxley said the greatest threat to freedom is total anarchy. The second greatest threat is total efficiency. I think we've confused efficiency with effectiveness in some really fundamental ways. One of the tenets of Dirty Jobs was to find people who had dedicated their work ethos to becoming effective, and as a result, there was not this obsession with always wringing every last dollar or penny of efficiency out of the model. It was just it seemed a simpler thing, but of course I know how naive that sounds. Efficiency does push the greater market, and my very first job that anybody ever paid me for was tearing tickets at United Artists TV at one of those you know, multiplexes in a mall. I went back today. The usher is gone. The tickets you buy automatically, and behind the concession stand you get your popcorn from a machine too. So, you know, we probably don't want to get into the minimum wage, but when you talk about the unintended consequences of moving all that up, you're knocking the lower rungs off the ladder, and that ain't good.
It's a changing times. It really is. Micro, thanks for being with us this morning. Good to get your take on things.
Anytime.